We'll go on the record in People versus Eric Lewis. This is file number 255493. The record should reflect that Mr. Lewis is present here in the courtroom today. If I could have counsel put your appearances on.
Sierra Coke on behalf of the people.
Thank you, Your Honor. Jason Thomas on behalf of the defendant, Eric Lewis.
Thank you. This is the date and time set for sentencing in this matter. Mr. Lewis, have you had an opportunity to go through the pre-sentence report and talk to Mr. Thompson about that?
Yes, I have, Your Honor.
Mr. Thompson, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to that report?
Your Honor, what I would say is when I allocute, Mr. Lewis has a lot of, or has things he wants the court to be aware of regarding the contents of the PSI, the technical corrections or deletions, but we are going to be commenting extensively on the PSI for my allocution.
Okay. Are there any challenges to the scoring of the guidelines?
No challenges to scoring, Your Honor.
Let's hope that the people have any additions, deletions, or corrections.
No,
Any challenges to the scoring?
no, I believe it's scored accurately.
Anything on behalf of the people for allocation?
Your Honor, I think the court is probably pretty familiar with Mr. Lewis's behavior through the PSI. Most things are documented. Honestly, he's 34 years old. This is, I think, his 9th and 10th felony. He's got 4 misdemeanors and a juvenile record. He's currently under sentence. He is literally his own worst enemy. You know, he can present normal and he can present appropriate, and then he can be completely out of control. I did read his thing from CMH that he has voluntarily went there 18 times and wants to continue those services. I think that's great for him. But if he doesn't learn some self-control, he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. The guidelines are 7 to 28. He doesn't get any credit because of his current situation. I don't think he's earned the bottom end of the guidelines. I would ask the court to sentence him in the middle. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson?
First, if I could approach, Your Honor, Prosecutor Cope referred to it, but this is a letter from CMH that does describe his attendance and his willingness to participate in that CMH counseling he received here.
Okay, thank you. I've had a chance to review that here today. Anything else you wanted to say on behalf of Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, I had several things, Your Honor. Mr. Lewis wanted the court to know, you know, obviously looking at his record, the number of felonies, you know, there's only 4 adult felonies before here today. Mr. Lewis had an extensive juvenile record that led to him sort of unprecedented in my experience, being sent to prison at 14. Really kind of a dramatic story when you read his PSI in terms of how long he had been incarcerated, what he got exposed to at a very young age in terms of adult, in terms of a prison. In this time, he did do a lot of additional programming that's referred to in the PSI, doing classes on advanced substance abuse, doing some classes on trying to get qualified as a janitor. As he had been out on parole here, he didn't have any formal violations. He did advocate to try to receive more services and benefits when he was here because he very much believes he needs additional help to become a functioning member of society. As he tells me a lot, he really has a lot of desires in that. He was making moves to achieve that. He wanted an apartment, he wanted to go to college, he was working towards enrolling in college, he wanted to have a productive life. Unfortunately, he had a very bad day here. It wasn't an aggressive thing, it was a non-compliance thing. He wasn't intoxicated that day, he was 0 sent to jail. At some points, and I've watched hours of videos about this day, at points he does submitted handcuffing. He didn't attack officers, but there were points where he was not compliant. He advises me he was very sick that day. He'd been sick for a while. That caused him to go off his medication. He couldn't bathe it down. That caused him to go off his mental health medications, and so he wasn't in his best state that day. There are times when it's referred to that he was in a fighting stance. He really doesn't agree with that. And I've watched the video, and his hands were at his side. It's a very aggressive posture from his perspective. He's getting about ready to be tased, so he's tensing up. But you know, he wants the court to know he didn't raise his hands in an aggressive way. He had them at his side, but he was tensing up because he was about to get tased, and he ultimately was tased. You know, ultimately that day, he's the person who got hurt. He's the person who bore that burden on that day. He knows he really needs help. I think he's demonstrated a lot of insight into that. He knows he needs mental health counseling, and the court can see he's participated with CMH. He has a brother who's doing very well in Gaylord. You know, he looks towards that in terms of a family member who has been able to do the things he wants to do. He did get a GED in 2007. He does suffer from mental health concerns. I think at some points it refers to his health as being in good health, but he wants the court to know he does suffer from PTSD, anxiety, depression, perhaps ODD. He was married and then divorced. In his background, I guess I wasn't clear about that. Mr. Lewis presents, you know, as someone with a very difficult record. And I don't know that it's necessarily untrue that he is his own worst enemy, but he wants the court to consider a community sanction of jail time up to the 12 months. That would be appropriate, allow him to continue to try to work on the things he's trying to work on. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, anything you wanted to say today?
Everything my lawyer has said is accurate. You know, I do have like mental issues or whatever, and I understand this, you know, like when I'm you know, I guess faced with somebody that is talking aggressively towards me, I tend to match their energy because of the things I've been through and where I just came from. I did almost 10 years in a level 4 prison out of the almost 12 that I just did. So like, you got to understand, being a white guy and a smaller white guy in a level 4 prison does tend to, you know, reflect on you because of how long it was, you know what I mean? And I don't mean to be like that. And I have been steadily trying to change this. And as you can see, like through everything I've actually did accomplish when I was out there, I was actually trying to do normal stuff. I wasn't doing drugs or nothing like that. You know, I did smoke weed and I did occasionally drink, and my parole officer did know about this. And I'm not a liar, so you know, I was always straightforward with him. And I took my medications, and like I told you the last time I was in here, when they came in, I was sick. I was real sick, and you can verify that through the jail stuff, because I didn't eat for almost a week or something like that. I just kept puking, and like I was on like cough med, like all that, you know, NyQuil, DayQuil, Courtroom and stuff. You don't get that in prison, so like that was all new to me. You know, you don't get any type of, you know, narcotics, so to speak, like that. And then being off my meds, you know, I was real highly emotional and stuff like that. You'll see in the video, if you watch the video, that I was sleeping. I was complying up to the whole time. And like I said, I don't even know why I said I ain't saying shit when they told me to send the chair. It didn't even make sense. At first, I thought it was just literally like a typo or something. And then when I seen the video, I'm like, damn, why did I say that? They don't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm complying up to this point. Why would I be like that? And then they try to force me into the chair. And I don't know. I wasn't in the right state of mind. I ended up apologizing to one of the cops, a younger guy, for it. And I told him, man, that's my bad. You know, like I'm trying to do right. I had a job out there. I was about to start college, and on November 4th, all I had to do was the FAFSA and just waiting on the time to file the FAFSA. But everything else was already in line. I was going to go for business and entrepreneurship. I was about to start an LLC and try to do like that resale stuff, you know, to get a little bit of a side hustle going on. I was looking for a second job. I bought a bunch of stuff for the place I was living at, which is all gone now, but I bought a bunch of stuff. Like I was on the right track. You know what I mean? And like my next step was either to get my own place, which I was talking to Todd about, which was like the coordinator guy or whatever, and or get a car. You know what I mean? And another thing was like in 2023, you know, I had a bad seizure that like left me like I flatlined all the way through. You know, like they was about to pull the plug on me and everything. And they said, I'm a medical miracle that I should even be talking here today. And like, that messed up my mind a little bit, like, thinking wise and stuff like that. And it's not an excuse, this is documented through Sparrow Hospital. This is all stuff that can be checked into. And like, that's kind of why I'm on Capra and stuff like that, to help straighten myself out. I'm just trying to get, a second chance, man. I'm trying to do the right thing. I don't want nothing to do with prison. I don't want nothing to do with getting in trouble. I don't want nothing to do with none of that. Your Honor, I even, when I was out there, I called the cops a couple times, just to show like I was trying to change. I even talked to John about a couple things that happened because I didn't know what to do. I've never called the cops on nobody before, so I was trying to actually be a productive member. You know what I mean? Like I never done this, and I didn't really have any help. And everything that I was reading was I was supposed to get help, and then I didn't get no help. I got a place to stay. And then the first 3 days, the toilet didn't even flush, and like, and I didn't, everything I bought was with my own will, with my own doing. So, and you can see like all the stuff that was in my apartment, like I got all that, nobody else there in that Phase Motel had nowhere near as much stuff as I had. You can tell I wasn't doing drugs, and I don't really know what else to say. Like I was trying. It was just a bad day. I was sick. I apologize to the court. I apologize to the cops mainly for even acting like that. Like I feel stupid acting like that. I don't even like acting like that. Like I play around, and I joke and stuff like that. But but that's with like people that I'm comfortable with. But other than that, dude, I don't talk to people like that. I talk to people with respect. Some type of intelligence. I don't like to do that. I've never came out of my bag with John that I can remember. I don't even think we've even had a bad conversation, and I don't know. John's never done me wrong. I've never done him wrong. He's always been straightforward with me, and I've always been straightforward with him. Blatant to the point. Like at one point in time, I give you an example. At one point in time, I had like a little, it was kind of like a pocket knife thing or whatever. And I was using it to cut boxes up at my work, like cutting them open and stuff. Because I worked at Bears Den, so I cut plastic open. It was real small. It was like the size of a razor blade. John said I'd get in trouble for it, so I ended up throwing it away just because I didn't want to get in trouble for it. You know what I mean? Like I don't even have anything that he said I'd get in trouble for, I just didn't do. I was actually trying.
Okay, well, I did read through the report, so I'm familiar with the incident that brings you before the court here today. I read through the report that contains all the background information about you, your circumstances, your past history, your medical issues and so forth. So I have all that information. I take all of that into account along with what the lawyers had to say, and I listened very carefully to everything that you've had to say here. First of all, I think make a really valid point that you have had a lot of negative experiences based on your prior incarceration. I think it's really understandable that somebody who's had to deal with what you've had to deal with and live the way that you've had to live in prison, and the things that you've had to do to defend yourself and keep yourself safe and secure in that environment. You can't just switch that off when you're outside of it. And that, when you're faced with certain situations, that background is going to tend to cause you to have an reaction and things that a normal person who hasn't been through those things wouldn't do. And so, I think that's completely, again, understandable that you would react in that way. The problem is those officers don't necessarily know what your background is. They're responding to a situation, and they have to deal with somebody who is doing the kind of things that you were doing. And because you've had that background in your life doesn't necessarily give you the right to put them in a position.
No, it doesn't. I understand that.
So, and I say that because I think that's a mitigating factor, but it's not one that excuses your behavior in this case.
No.
And so that's one thing. I think what's positive is that you are taking steps through community mental health to address those things so that you can work on strategies to help you react in a different way. than we did in this situation because of your background, and I think that's a big key for you going forward as to whether or not, you know, you're gonna spend more time on the outside or more time on the inside.
Yeah, I agree.
So I say that because I think that's something that I should take into consideration in terms of percentage. As you're aware, your guidelines are 7 to 28 months. I think your conduct in this case and your past history would certainly warrant a sentence at the high end of the scale. I think the fact that you are addressing some of those issues and have voluntarily participated in community mental health gives the court reason to believe that there is potential for rehabilitation, and that, you know, it's something that you're self-directing as opposed to being ordered to do it, which I think makes a difference as well. And so in my mind, that moves the sentence from one that's at the top end of the guidelines to one that's more in the middle, because I think that sentence in the middle of the guidelines addresses the positive things that you're doing, but it also addresses the wrongfulness of your conduct in this case. So the court finds that the sentence of 18 months in the Michigan Department of Corrections for 3 years as to each count is a reasonable and fair sentence given all the circumstances in this case. Because of your parole status, you do have credit for 0 days served. Any sentence here is required to be consecutive to any parole violations. Court will order a crime victim assessment of $130. Court costs is $25. $50, $136 daily costs. You have the ability to seek an appeal of the sentence. Now, appellate rights. Did you want this?
Yes, please. These are your forms if you want to file an appeal. There's 4 copies. You're going to initial the top one to indicate that you've received it. You're going to keep the bottom 2 if you want to file an appeal. One of the deadlines is 47 days. So you have to fill those out and turn them in within 47 days. Say the 7th, Your Honor.
It was emailed.
You can email it to me and attach it to the PSI.
I look for it.
All right, so you keep those copies. You can fill those out if you will type them if you want to file that appeal.
Forward it to you.
Go ahead and get back down. I'm gonna have Mr. Stock remain right there. Got a microphone there that will pick up his voice. Oh, do you have a problem with your foot?
Yeah,
can
but that's
sit if you
okay.
want.
It's okay.
If it's gonna cause you distress.
I'm okay.
All right, if I could have counsel put your appearances on.
Sierra Coke on behalf of the people.
Thank you, Your Honor. Richard Trush appearing on behalf of Mr. Waltz.
Okay. The record should reflect that Mr. Waltz present here in the courtroom today. This is the date and time set for a sentencing hearing. Mr. Waltz, did you have an opportunity to go through the pre-sentence report?
We did.
Mr. Trush, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to that report?
The only correction that I would make to the report is the adult criminal history section entry entry 16 of 16 is a Clare County case. It indicates that it's pending. I believe that's been resolved and he served his sentence. I think he was released from Clare County's jail yesterday.
Or yesterday. Okay, Ms. Coke, do you have any objection to that correction or update, I guess, more like?
No.
Okay. Do you need any more information than that, Mr.?
Well, just like the final charge.
Well, it's 2 attempted RNOs,
Okay.
which I agreed on. I was in jail for 73 days.
What is that? What they gave you 73 days?
73 days, no more time served when I went to jail. And then I'm on 9 months probation now. So they did put me on probation. So I don't know if that.
All right, gotcha.
I didn't think that was coming. I didn't see that coming at all, As it stands now, I am on probation, so if there's a thought about that at all with sentencing, okay, there's a consideration to be done there, then I would appreciate it, but that's all I have to say.
All right, Mr. Trush, any other corrections?
No, Your Honor.
Any other challenges to the scoring of the guidelines?
No.
Anything on behalf of the people for allocution today? Or I'm sorry, got ahead of myself. Ms. Coe, do you have any additions, deletions, or corrections?
No.
Do you have any challenges to the scoring?
No, I just want to confirm his bond was not canceled. So my notes say 9 days credit. I don't know. I'm not sure if there's additional credit because of the Claire thing that we didn't know or not. I just want to make sure
I have
anyone,
9 as well.
okay.
I
Thank
think
you.
9 is correct.
Yeah, if I may.
You can, I'm gonna give you a chance to say whatever you want in a second.
Okay.
Let me have everybody else take their turn. Ms. Coe, anything you wanted to say for allocution?
Your Honor, Mr. Walt presents, he's 43. He's got 11 misdemeanors and 3 felonies. He's had a series of issues recently. I know he's had some medical issues. I have notes from our November hearing that he was in the Clare jail and had a bone marrow disease. We discussed revoking his bond, but the reason, and this is why I asked the court, the reason we didn't revoke his bond at that time is they said that if we revoked his bond and they were going to release him for treatment, which they didn't know at the time to do the bone marrow treatment, if we revoked his bond, then he would just come here instead of go to the bone marrow medical treatment. So if we didn't revoke his bond, that's why we discussed it on the record at length at that court. And I just want the court to know that's what happened and why he didn't end up getting that credit for the time that was served because of his bone marrow disease. The recommendation is 60 days with 9 days credit. You know, it may be appropriate for the court to take into consideration some of that credit that he would have got if he didn't have that, because we weren't really sure what was going to happen with the Clare County Jail. But I defer to the court and thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think what the prosecutor outlined here is accurate. And I mean that she identified at the last hearing, there was discussion of canceling his bond. We ultimately didn't ask the court to cancel it because we didn't want to put him in a position where if he needed to be released for treatment, we had to scramble and try to do something in order for him to be able to get medical attention that he needed. So I would suggest to the court, you know, the recommendation here is 60 days. He's just finished serving a 73-day sentence in Clare County. Again, was literally released yesterday. He's on probation to Clare County. I would suggest to the court, I don't think he's entitled to credit for that time, but I also don't think the court has to turn a blind eye to the facts of the situation here, which is he just served a jail sentence commiserate with what's recommended here. I would suggest to the court, you know, deviating from this a little bit would make sense to me in terms of placing him on a probation that mirrors the probation, you know, in Clare County. I think that's an appropriate way to handle it, and it takes into account Mr. Waltz's unique circumstances. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Waltz. Anything you want to say?
Well, I just wanted to say, I'm truly apologize for the situation that I'm in right now. To be honest, it sounds funny, but I got gray hairs on my chin now, and it really affected me. Like it sounds simple and stupid, but it really means a lot to me. I think I finally got it. You know, I think I finally figured it out. You know, what's more important in life. My wife's gonna take me back. My kid misses me so much. He's just been so wonderful the last 2 days. So I apologize for anything, and I feel like I've done a lot of growing up, considering I sat in jail for something I didn't do, and I took that as a blessing. It was a blessing in disguise for me because it saved me a lot. So that's really all I have to say. I think.
All right, I did read through the pre-sentence report, so familiar with why you're before the court here today, the circumstances of this offense. There's also a lot of information in that report about you, background and circumstances as well. You know, you have a lot of factors working against you at this point. You've developed a relatively lengthy criminal history. And, you know, to the extent that you're saying that you're tired of this, now is the time, because your guidelines are only going to go further up and you're going to end up spending time in prison. Looks like so far, been there once.
Yeah.
You got 7 probations, 6 jail, 1 prison sentence. So sooner or later, whether it's me or a different judge is going to look at that and say, we're done with probation, we're done with jail, there's no point to that anymore, because none of it's worked. So to the extent you're going to make a change, now is the time to do it. In terms of this offense, it's not a particularly serious offense. You had a relatively small amount that appears that it was a personal use amount. So there's no indication of trafficking or that type of thing here, which would call for more serious penalty. I do think it's appropriate to take into account the time that you served in Clare County. That had your bond been canceled here, it would have essentially subsumed, or perhaps even more or close to, the 60-day sentence that the court would impose here. The guidelines are 0 to 17. Taking all things into consideration, the court is not going to impose any additional jail time here today above 9 days served at the time you served at Clare. And I think the fact that you are on probation in Clare also gives this court some degree of security, knowing that you're going to be supervised for at least the next 9 months, tested, which is not something that I was going to order in this case. So the court is going to essentially limit your penalties here to time served and financial penalties, which are not insignificant. So the court is going to impose 9 days in Crawford County Jail with credit for 9 days served, the crime victim's assessment of $130, court costs of $325, attorney fees of $350, and the $68 state costs. You have the ability to seek an appeal of this sentence. Mr. Thompson, could you help Mr. Waltz? Mr. Thompson is court-appointed attorney, says he's going to provide you with some papers here. He's explaining to you how to seek an appeal as well as how to request a word.
These are 4 copies of the form you'd use to request an appeal. Initial and date this one, we'll give it to the court. This indicates that you've received it. This doesn't file the appeal. If you wanted to file the appeal, you'd take the 2 copies that we've given you. You send one to the address on the form.
Well, before you leave,
She just wanted to thank you.